Friends, greetings to everyone. Today I will tell you an interesting story about a robbery involving an anti-tank rifle. It begins in 1965 when Jack Frank, a mechanic from New York, purchased two finished 20mm anti-tank rifles from the Interon Co. In addition to the rifles, Jack also bought 200 rounds of ammunition for them. All this grandeur cost him $800. The buyer requested that the rifles be delivered to Plattsburgh, a small village in northern New York near the Canadian border. For some reason, the company employees became suspicious of Frank and contacted the FBI. The investigators concluded that Frank intended to send the rifles to Canada to aid the Quebec Liberation Front, a group of radical Marxists seeking to make Quebec an independent state. The FBI alerted the Canadians, and they decided to monitor the rifles to see who would eventually pick them up. Here we meet the main character of our story, Joel Singer, Jack Frank's nephew. It was for his nephew that Jack ordered the anti-tank rifles. On April 5, 1965, the rifles arrived at a warehouse in Plattsburgh, where they were stored pending shipment. Singer suspected that the police were monitoring the weapons and waiting to see who would pick them up. So he waited for the weekend, broke into the warehouse at night, and stole the two anti-tank rifles and their ammunition. The theft was only discovered on Monday. It is unclear whether they were actively searching for the missing rifles, but the story takes an unexpected turn 6 months later. On October 23, 1965, Singer and 5 of his accomplices attacked a Brinks Company facility in Syracuse, New York. Brinks is a valuables transportation company, and they had one of their vaults in Syracuse. Apparently, Singer's gang was well acquainted with the layout of the building because they managed to bypass all the surveillance and alarm systems. The gang first broke into the garage door and then drove in with a DeSoto van containing the anti-tank rifle and other tools. Moreover, the robbers modified the rifle by attaching a huge barrel-shaped suppressor to it. Inside the barrel were soaked mattresses, blankets, steel wool, and rubber shavings. The robbers also developed a special mount for the rifle. As a result, the bandits fired 33 armor-piercing rounds in a circular pattern, creating a passage measuring 45 by 60 centimeters through which one of the robbers entered the vault. The police later found nitroglycerin, gas masks, welding equipment, and other burglary tools at the crime scene. However, apparently, the power of the finished rifle was enough. The robbers took $430,000 and calmly left the scene. They did leave behind some evidence, though, including spent casings and tools stumped made in Canada. The police and the FBI began searching for the criminals and informed the Canadian law enforcement agencies. During this time, Joel Singer visited his uncle and gave him $200 as a thank you for helping with the purchase of the weapons. Singer also informed Frank about the robbery. However, his uncle didn't appreciate this turn of events and immediately contacted the FBI, demanding immunity in exchange for his testimony. Frank became a key witness and revealed how he and Singer had disposed of the rifle by throwing it into the ocean. The rifle was quickly found, but the shell casings left by the robbers raised questions about what they had used to break into the vault. On November 19, Singer appeared on the FBI's most wanted list, and in December, he was arrested in Montreal and extradited to Syracuse. Singer was sentenced to 10 years in a maximum security prison in Attica. He never betrayed his accomplices. He was the only member of the gang convicted for the robbery. By the way, only $166 of the stolen money was recovered. Singer served his sentence in prison, but after a massive riot in September 1971, he suffered a mental breakdown. After receiving treatment in a psychiatric hospital, he was released from custody. He returned to Montreal, but tragically took his own life a year after his release, on February 6, 1973. Perhaps this robbery is referenced in the movie Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, where Clint Eastwood's character uses an Ehrlichen gun. That's the interesting and somewhat amusing story. Thank you all for watching, my friends. 1000